Hey everyone, welcome back to Ontario Gardening. Today we are going to be making the very popular Cowboy Candy, also known as Candied Jalapenos. So for this recipe, you are going to need 3 pounds of fresh and firm jalapenos. And what you're going to do is you're going to chop the stems off. And then once you've chopped the stems off, you are going to just cut them into rings. And you're going to do that with the seeds and the membrane and everything just right in it, as long as you're taking those stems off. Wear gloves. Jalapeno burn is real and it hurts. So just make sure you're wearing gloves when you're doing this, just to prevent your hands from getting scalded. The only other thing you'll need for this recipe is 6 cups of white sugar, 2 cups of apple cider vinegar, half a teaspoon of celery seed, 3 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and half a teaspoon of turmeric. The other thing you'll need is about 6 sterilized jam jars and your warm lids. So just before I start, real quick, if you're wondering why I have a side pot with these banana peppers going on, I do have somebody in my house who hates the heat, who does not like jalapenos. So I am making a little batch to the side with sweet banana peppers, just so that we can have that flavor. When I'm enjoying this, we can also enjoy these with no heat. So that's what's going on here. Ignore that to the side and just follow the recipe as I go for just the Cowboy Candy with the jalapeno. So the first thing that we are going to do is we're mixing all of these ingredients into a large pot. So we've got our 2 cups of apple cider vinegar, our 6 cups of sugar, and then all of the spices. So we've got our garlic powder, the turmeric, the cayenne pepper, and the celery seed. So we are going to stir all of those ingredients together in our pot, and then we are going to turn it up to high, and then we're going to bring this to a boil. As it comes up to temperature, to that boil, you're going to want to continuously stir it to make sure that none of that sugar is sticking or burning to the bottom, because it is pretty thick. Once we've got this up to a full rolling boil, we are going to turn it down to a simmer and then let it simmer for 5 minutes. So just waiting till it kind of cools down for a minute. Make sure to continuously, like I said, stir it so nothing burns, and then simmer for 5. Once we've let that simmer for 5 minutes, we are going to add our jalapenos to the brine. And now we're just going to stir around, and we are going to bring this back up to a boil. So let's get this back up to a boil. Okay, now we've got the mixture back up to a boil with the peppers inside. Once you've done this, now we're going to turn it back down and let it simmer again. So we are going to let it simmer for exactly 4 minutes. I actually just set my timer so that I know it's exactly 4 minutes. This recipe is a lot of turn up, turn down, turn up, turn down, but it's just all in making that sauce and that brine for the Cowboy Candy to kind of thicken. So now that we've simmered for 4 minutes, you're going to take a slotted spoon and you're going to take the candied jalapenos out of the pot and we're moving them into your clean, sterile jars. Just the jalapenos though, not the brine, because we're gonna let the brine cook again for another 6 minutes. So for now, just the jalapenos. And you're going up to about 1/4 inch headspace on the side of the jar there. So just about where the band is. And then we're going to let the brine cook, and then we'll be pouring the brine on top in a second. So go ahead and fill your jars. So now we've got all of the jalapenos out of the brine, and this is left on the stove, and we are going to bring that back up to a boil and let it boil for 6 minutes. Okay, so now that the brine has been boiling for the last 6 minutes, we are now going to take our funnel. I've already done this one. Like I said, it was a side piece of just the banana peppers. And we are going to put the brine into our sterilized jars with the jalapeno in it. So we will ladle that in. I'm by myself in the kitchen today, so it is a little bit more difficult than in previous videos. So I'll just show you here. So we're going to ladle this into the jars until we get about a line with the jalapenos. You want 1/4 inch headspace, so about to the second line on the jar there. Now these are 250 milliliter jam jars. So I'm just going to do this because I'm by myself today. I'm going to do it off camera and then I'll show you real quick. So once you have the brine funneled into the jar, you're obviously going to take this out. And for this recipe, you're going to take either a skewer or a spoon or a knife, and you're just going to release some of the air pockets from the sides. As you can see, some of it coming up there. And then you're going to take either a wet cloth or a wet paper towel, and you want to wipe the rim of your jar to make sure that there's no debris on it, especially with this recipe because everything's so sticky. And then we are going to go into our hot lids here. Now be careful because everything's hot. The lid is hot, the jar is hot, the brine is hot, everything's hot. So we're putting our lid on, and then we're putting our band on. Now once these are all done, we will transfer them into our boiling water, and that is going to process in there for 10 minutes for the 250 milliliter jam jars, 15 minutes if you're using the 500 milliliter pint jars or half pint jars. So that'll be dependent on what size jar you're using. So again, I'm just going to go off camera and do it real quick since I am by myself, and then I will show you from there. So you will most likely have some brine left over, and I actually am just going to can the brine up. It makes for a great marmalade, marinade on steaks and chicken and meats, and even though you can like put it on veggies and stuff. So I'm going to just save it and can it up and process it and throw it on the shelf downstairs, and if I want to use it, then it's very syrupy, so we can do that in the future for future recipes. So as I said, I've got the cans now here in our water bath, and we're going to let it process for 10 minutes. And we are now out of the water bath. So that is the Cowboy Candy or Candied Jalapenos. Pretty simple, a little bit time consuming, but pretty simple. Thank you so much for joining us. This was right out of the garden, guys, so that's the most exciting part about this whole thing is every single pepper came from my garden. So I'm so excited to try this year's batch. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for joining us. Bye.